Do you ever get that feeling where you really want to play a deep strategy board game, but you simply don't have enough time to learn the rules and do so? Well, come and join me, because in this video, I take you through my 5 favorite small box board games that are big on the strategy, but they're quick and easy to learn and play. Hey dude, do you want to play a quick board game? Sure, I'll get the game. Wait a minute, doesn't that game take about 2 hours to play? What? Ticket to Ride London is a bite-sized version of the original Ticket to Ride board game that plays in under 20 minutes. You beauty! Players will be taking a trip around London using its extensive bus network to gather tickets, claim routes, and ultimately establish the best tourist bus route in the entire city. Across each game of Ticket to Ride London, players will be competing to claim routes that appear in 6 different colours. On their turn, players will either draw transportation cards from the face-up row, claim a route by handing in a number of coloured tickets matching the length of the route they wish to control, or drawing more destination cards that need to be completed by the game's end, or a penalty will be applied. Players are ultimately trying to connect routes together that match the places listed on their destination card. As the game progresses, the board chokes up like some sort of coloured tangled spaghetti, with players blocking routes from other players. Players can score points by claiming a route and connecting similar coloured districts together. Whoever has the most points wins. I am in love with London and Ticket to Ride, and this game takes 2 of my favourite things and merges them together into one nice, neat, travel-worthy package. Basically, the rules of Ticket to Ride London are very similar to the original Ticket to Ride game, except on this version of the game, the map is really tight and quite interwoven and interconnected. Players have a limited supply of buses, which means that the game ends really quickly, and every route that players decide to claim is going to matter for their end game. There's an additional way to score in this version of the game, which involves the districts, and if you connect all of your routes to a certain district, you score additional bonus points that beefs up your final score at the end of the game, adding for extra layer of thinking and strategy. There is so much blocking that happens in this version of the game, yet it is so much fun to get up because it's so easy to set up and easy to take with you on holidays. Hey dude, thanks for inviting me over. I've always wanted to play Ticket to Ride, but never really got the chance to do so. So on my turn, I play this card, and I claim this route. Gain 1 point. So on my turn, I play 4 cards of the same transportation colour, giving me 7 bonus points, and blocking your entire connection. Good game! Parks is a worker placement and set collection board game that is a complete feast for the eyes. It has players trekking through 59 of the famous United States national parks. Players will be traversing over 4 different seasons along an ever-changing bush trail, experiencing the harsh weather and gathering resources along the way. Players will be trading in those resources to claim park cards, which are an accolade of their experiences and memories throughout their travels. Like an honorary Scout member, Parks is a board game about honouring the national parks of America. Across each season, a season card will determine what the weather will be like for the round, represented by this weather pattern on the trail. Players will be moving one of their 2 hikers along this linear trail, gathering tokens along the way, including mountains, water, trees, and wild animals. No 2 players can ever share space unless a visiting player uses their campfire token. Players will ultimately be trading these for the parks shown in the park row. Along the way, players will be also taking photos with a camera to score additional points and filling up their canteen cards to gain extra abilities and resources. Acquiring the right gear can help players build an efficient engine towards meeting their objectives. Parks is a dynamically changing game. Across each season, the trail is shuffled and a new tile is added, so no trail in Parks will ever be the same. The player with the most experience points at the end of the game wins. I'm a bit of a nature boy, and I do love photography, so when I opened Parks and played it for the first few times, I was absolutely engaged and enthralled and excited. The worker placement aspect of parks is both puzzling and agonizing. Deciding where you're going to place your work and how fast you're going to travel along this trail is quite a difficult choice because there are other hikers in your way. If you travel too quickly, you'll be able to claim some of the park cards and reserve them for yourself, or even get a gear card at a cheaper price. However, if you go slowly along, you'll be able to gather more resources along the way, and using those resources at the end of the trail to buy park cards is ultimately how you're going to score a lot of your points. Also, this game has a light engine building aspect to it, so combining gear cards and filling up your canteen to gain those extra resources gives you a little bit more flexibility and a few extra choices to try and bend the rules and bend the game in your favor. Slowing down is definitely an important part of this game, taking in the scenery, taking in the fresh air. This game is really simple to learn, and its variability definitely makes it very approachable. Rome is a small box area control game by famous board game designer Ryan Laukat, set in his world of Arsium, where players take on the role of explorers who scope out the land to try and wake up creatures who've been put to sleep by the great sleeping sickness. Players are going to be recruiting different characters as they explore the map and try and gain coins and artifacts along the way, with the ultimate goal of scoring the most victory points possible. In a game of Rome, players are going to build a map of Arsium using 6 land cards placed together. Each player sits on a different side of the map and views it in their perspective. Across the game, players will be using their character cards to place exploration markers onto the map in the configuration shown on their character card, gaining any coins as they do so. Used character cards are flipped face down. Players are ultimately aiming to have the most markers on a land card when it fills up. Whoever does so gets to recruit the character on the other side into their party. Coins are used to purchase artifacts and enable players to refresh their party early to enable them to reuse the same character cards again. Coins are also used to bid on certain cards if there's ever a tie. Rome uses the player's seated point of view in an interesting way, much like the game Lanterns. It also uses a cube placement mechanic similar to the board game Tiny Towns. The strategy in Rome here is to try and cover as much of the map cards as possible whilst trying to make sure that you have dominant area control over the cards that you want in order to gain the abilities that you want into your tableau and collection. I like how as you gain cards, your choice of exploration configuration changes as well and becomes a little bit more expansive. It is often more strategic to overlap your marker placement onto the game map so that it covers 2 or 3 cards to try and maximize your coverage. It's also important to vie for cards that allow you to place 3 or 4 tokens all on at the same time, meaning that you can spread your exploration a little bit more efficiently. Battling for land cards is incredibly important, and making sure that you have enough coins in your supply to auction and bid for very important cards when there's a tie is crucial for swinging the points in your game's favor. Unearth is a dice placement game where players are competing to unearth different ruins, monuments, and wonders. Players roll their dice, which represents their tribe members, as they try to reclaim lost civilizations and collect Minecraft-like gemstones in order to build special wonders to ultimately score the most points possible. Across a game of Unearth, players are going to choose a ruins card in the center of the game area and deploy one of their 5 dice-shaped tribe members and send them out there. Each player's dice has a different number of faces. Some have 4, others have up to 8 faces. As the game progresses, each player is vying for control for different ruins cards. A ruins card becomes excavated once the total number of all the dice on it equal or exceed its value. The player with the die of the highest value on that card gets to claim the card into their collection. Players are ultimately trying to compete against each other to try and claim and unearth coloured sets of ruins that match their secret ruin colour, as well as collecting 1 ruin card of each colour. At the same time, players are also using stones unearthed from this draw bag to build hexagonal rings of coloured stones with an empty space in the centre. If all the stones are the same colour, players build a greater wonder, and if not, they build a lesser wonder. Named wonders can be built based on a specific combination of stones. Players can acquire stones whenever they roll a 1, 2, or 3 on their turn. Delver cards allows players to help manipulate the result of the dice rolls to help usher the game in their favour. The player who has attained the highest number of points wins the game. There are several reasons why you should take a chance on Unearth. First of all, The game has an immense level of strategy. Deciding which of the 3 types of dice you're going to commit to and roll on your turn, and which Delver cards you're going to play to try and modify the dice results is a very crucial decision, because you're collecting sets of ruin cards that ultimately help you score by the end of the game. And if there's a card that's really popular, you might commit your D8 to it because there's a greater chance that you'll be able to claim it. And if there's a card that's not popular, you might decide to commit only a D4 to it. Also, if you roll low numbers in this game, like a 1, 2, or 3, you can draw stone tiles from this bag and create rings of stone. It's got this kind of Minecraft-like quality to it. And rings of stones help you to build greater and lesser wonders. And if you have the right combination of stones, they satisfy some of these recipe cards, which allow you to build named wonders, which are different abilities or different scoring opportunities that will ultimately alter your final score by the end of the game. King Domino is a Spiel des Jahres award-winning domino laying game which has players scouring the land to help diversify the king's riches. It takes the classic game of domino laying and transforms it into a game of strategy, domino drafting, and area building. Throughout a game of King Domino, players will be selecting different dominoes from these 2 columns using these meeples and adding it to their kingdom, matching the terrain type as closely as possible to maximize their scoring opportunities. The order of the dominoes shown determines the order in which players will choose the next domino in the next column in the next round. Each domino has either 1 terrain type or 2. Players are attempting to connect their dominoes together within a 5x5 space. When placing a domino, it must be positioned in a way so one end touches the terrain type that it matches. At the end of the game, the regions that feature a crown icon are the only areas that are scored. The size of the area is multiplied by the number of crowns that appear in that zone. What I really enjoy about King Domino is the fact that it's got a very simple rule set, yet the strategy packs a massive punch. Drafting the right domino tile is a balancing act that players have to weigh up from round to round. If you pick a domino tile that's higher up in the column, you're probably less likely to get a domino tile with a crown symbol on it, meaning that the domino tiles without crown symbols on it are basically terrain tiles that you are vying for to hopefully expand and build the greatest area for, so at the end of the game you can then score them. But it does give you the advantage of going and picking earlier in the next round. If you pick a domino tile at the bottom of the column, you're more likely to get a crown symbol, and obviously those crown symbols are really important for multiplying your score at the end of the game. So marrying which one you actually need on the turn and where you are in the game is quite a difficult and agonizing decision to make. Also, where you place your tiles out in your kingdom is a whole new puzzle on its own. At the beginning of the game, you're really setting up your kingdom for particular terrain types that you might be vying for, and towards the latter end of the game you'll find that your 5x5 grid becomes really restrictive, and those earlier dominoes that you place are now going to really impact what you're able to score and how big those regions are going to be. Hey friends, thanks once again for joining me for another Board Game Sanctuary video. If you really like this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment in the section below, and share with me some of your favorite small box board games that have a big ton of strategy contained in them. I can't wait to read them and check them out. If you really like Board Game Sanctuary, please consider checking out my Patreon page. Otherwise, this is Danny signing out, and I can't wait to see you in the near future. Don't forget, make sure your next game is an amazing one. Goodbye. Now, who wants to play a board game?